Crime Curious is a true crime podcast that takes an in-depth look into real cases. The content may be triggering or inappropriate for some audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Crime Curious. I'm your host, Charnell Lennox, and in the studio with me today is Patreon and friend Andrea.
Hi.
I'm sorry, I saved a really gnarly one for you.
That's good, though.
I figured you could handle it.
I can handle it, but I will warn everybody, I'm like a drunken sailor with my words. If you do not like the word fuck, you might want to skip this podcast altogether. I'm just forewarning everybody.
Oh, shit. So this is going to be a two-parter as well, so hopefully you can stick around for the second part. But I read a book.
Oh, Jesus.
You know what happens when Charnell reads books, and it's all linked in the show notes, just so you know. The book is called You Think You Know Me by Ryan Green. Pick up a copy if you're intrigued after you hear this case. But, of course, with my other sources that are also linked in the show notes, I got a deep dive going for us. So let's just start and talk about, first, our perpetrator. His name is Herb Baumeister, Baumeister.
Sounds good for
Baumeister. He was born April 1947 to Elizabeth and Herbert Baumeister Sr. So his dad is also Herbert Baumeister. Okay. His dad was a successful anesthesiologist.
Good.
Yes. So his early, I actually think that the way his life kind of goes, and he goes on so long, has a lot to do with his dad's profession and the connections and the wealth that they end up accumulating. Because I think that this went on a lot longer than it maybe would have had he not been in that station in life. So his early childhood years were spent in Butler, Tarkington area of Indiana. This is an Indiana case. And his parents continued to create babies. Herb was the oldest. He then was followed by his sister Barbara, brother Brad, and then brother Richard. When Herb was 9, the family moved to a more affluent neighborhood of Washington Township, just outside of Indianapolis in Indiana. Okay. You know, as they start having kids, as Herbert and Elizabeth start having kids, and he is getting more and more recognized as a doctor, they slowly, over the years, just start, move up in the world,
They're
essentially.
rubbing elbows
They are.
with the right people.
Yep, and they're getting into those nice neighborhoods. Okay. Now, Herb was very happy to move to a larger house. He had his own space. He spent the first 9 years of his life making his siblings and his parents laugh no matter what the situation was. He was a goofball. He was like a class clown, if you will. Okay.
He sounds good. This is going to just gut punch me. I know
it really is. His early childhood years were not bad. I just want that to get out there right now.
It sounds like it's such a good storybook start in life.
It really was. There's not abuse. There's not trauma that we see. Okay. He took care, he helped care for his younger siblings. He was close with them. He liked to make people feel good through laughter. And he would even indulge if his siblings were pestering him or whatever. He would indulge whatever silly wishes they had to take care of them. Okay. But his mom described him as being a very caring and sensitive boy. Him and his mom had a very close relationship. She kind of recognized his sensitivities, and his dad was the provider. Okay. He's a doctor. He's away from the home a lot. But not to say that he's not a good dad, it's just, and especially in the 70s.
No, a good dad back then took care of their family.
Yes.
You went to work, you provided by money, showed your love by, you have
buying
a roof over your
nice
head.
House.
Yes, you have food. That was how they showed love.
Yes. And that is what Herbert Sr. does, essentially. But he wasn't there a lot. And so with Herb Jr. being a sensitive type, he did become more of a mama's boy, naturally.
He didn't have that physical connection with his dad.
Nope, he didn't. But he also felt pressure to please his dad. You know what I mean? Because he wasn't around as much. So
and being that high influential figure, you do not want to let them down.
You don't.
And that still, I think, stands today.
I think so, too.
It's just kind of inbred in us to not want to disappoint.
Yes, your parents. But he also, we'll see later in life, he really wants to be as successful as his dad was. Actually, he states several times he wants to be more successful. Like, he wants to do even better than this one person in his life that he wanted to please, you know, and just felt like...
you see that a lot with people.
Yeah, I think so. They go into kind of this lavish lifestyle, and in Herb's mind, it's gonna happen.
Herb.
I can't stand reading the name
can't either.
Herb.
I worked with a Herb, and I called him Herb all the time.
I hate reading
I'm like,
it.
you need to change your name.
It's gonna happen.
It's
people
a horrible
just
name
know
for that.
It is. I will say that he did really, really good in school. And in the beginning, he was popular. He had a good circle of friends. Up till his preteen times, he was kind of seen as being like wealthy, you know.
Yeah.
But his parents had taught him good work ethics. Now, at this point, I know you're not hating what you're hearing.
No,
all right?
I really think I like this kid right now.
Yes.
And I know in the back of my head, I'm not going to, but I like the kid. Version of him, I think.
In the early, up until his preteen years, there's nothing to hate about him. But when puberty hits, Andrea, shit starts
fucking hormones
to go down. Yes, it really was. I mean, in all seriousness, it was like the chemical reactions that started to happen in Herb's brain completely destroyed him. It really, really did. So here we are at, awkward boners and unwanted body hair, as if the teenage years are not awkward enough.
Shit. And then you have the fucking imbalance that you can't handle.
Yes.
Chemical imbalance is a no joke.
It's not. And for him, it led to serious mental illness. I mean, he changed.
So sad. I know he's not going to be a good guy now.
No.
But it is sad that he went from being such a
lovely, funny,
what everybody wants their child to be.
Yep.
To
do really well
happened.
In school. Yep. So people in his everyday life noticed many changes.
Oh, you would. That's like that's a 180.
Yes. Yep. And he still was making jokes and trying to make people laugh, but he got dark about it. Weird, creepy, and dark. Because he had unnatural desires and passions that awakened during puberty. I'll just lay it on the line for you now. He's obsessed with death.
Oh, that's great.
This is a case
that is amazing. What the hell?
This is a
how do you go?
It's a case of necrophilia.
Oh,
so
God.
You guys know.
Thanks for saving this one for me.
Yeah.
What the fuck did I sign up for?
I know. This is how I lose podcast hosts.
Oh, my God. You won't lose me for this, but what the fuck?
Yeah.
I'm already gut punched. Like, literally, my stomach just dropped. How did I go from liking this little boy to necrophilia?
And how it starts, as it does for most, is with an obsession of death with, like, roadkill. Dead animals. That's how these desires kind of awaken for him, is that he sees it. Of course, as a child, that is how you would first be introduced to death, you know? So he sees a crow on the side of the road. It intrigues him. He goes, and this is an actual story that one of his friends from high school, like early high school years, remembers about him. He came upon him poking his finger into a dead crow.
Ew.
Well, this gave Herb a boner.
Shut the hell up.
Playing with this dead crow.
Oh, my God, no.
And so I know. He starts to, that's what starts it, is just seeing, it starts with these animals.
You literally just ruined every walk I will ever go on, every drive. Like, I need to move to a city.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Literally,
I know.
I'm packing my shit when I get home.
Yep.
Like, that's it.
Yep. So,
I can't.
As you can imagine, this makes him dark and weird, right? Like, he goes from being the jokester to making people laugh to, like, he's still joking, But now it's gross stuff. It's stuff that's like, wait, why are you even thinking about that? Like, that shouldn't be a joke.
And I do have one
some
second. Like, I even feel bad for that kid that walked up. Like, can you imagine what he thought? Seeing all of that transpire.
He tried to ignore. He literally just chalked it up to like, okay, maybe he just randomly popped a boner because, you know, we're young and sometimes that happens.
But as you get older and you know about all of this.
Well, I'm sure once he was interviewed for this book, he was traumatized.
Well, yeah, that has to fuck with your head.
Of course it does.
Like, I'm stuck on this poor child that like wasn't really intended to be a part of any of this or know anything.
He literally was like, "Hey, Herb, what are you doing with that crow?"
Hard on a corpse of a crow.
Yeah.
Like, how do you find that sexually attractive?
Yep. Now, Herb was not an athlete, okay, which made him feel like, and I think he always wanted to be a part of the popular crowd. And at this time, the popular crowd are the athletes, right?
Yes.
So he tried to get his attention through like joking and, you know, drawing attention to himself that way. He was kind of a ruckus in class, really. He was disruptive a lot. He was
the kid you did not want in your class.
No, right. And he's seeking attention constantly, okay? He never dated any girls in school, and he really didn't interact with them at all.
Well, no, he was attracted to the dead crow on the side of the road. He was.
But also, I'll just tell you right now, he is gay.
Okay.
But it is 1960s,
yeah,
people.
You don't say anything.
He cannot.
You cannot.
And he has this.
Not to mention, like, even back then, the parents would have had
issues.
No. Like, that
his dad is a doctor.
He would have lost his status,
Nope.
and it should never be like that.
No.
But unfortunately, it was.
Yep. So this is the era that we're talking about. You know, and actually, I apologize because he was born in 1947. I don't know why I was thinking 74. I transpose those numbers in my head. But by the time he gets to the point where he realizes he's attracted to other men, it is 1960s, and he is in no position where he can.
Oh, no.
So but think about this. Socially, this makes him more awkward. And he is joking.
Was, yes.
Like his defense mechanisms are through joking. So he is joking, like making homosexual jokes that are making people uncomfortable because they're like, okay, you know, it's just the times. Like, we don't, and he joked about it so frequently, it did make people think that he was probably homosexual.
Well, yeah, if you brought it up all the
that
time.
much, yes. His transition from class clown turned into, you know, a guy who would just say whatever came to his mind. If it was dark and twisted, it didn't matter. He had no filter. So, for example, there is this one example in the book where he literally wondered out loud to his group of friends, I wonder what urine would taste like.
What the hell?
I can honestly say that I've got some dark and twisty friends, but we've never wondered what urine tastes like.
I'm pretty sure that friend group was like, peace out, we're
they
done.
Were just like
he has to have a new friend group now.
Okay.
Yeah, like, what the hell?
Then he actually wondered if it would taste better cold or right out of the body.
Neither.
Yeah, right. I'm going to say that there's not a way to make urine taste good ever.
Neither.
Also, to make this whole situation worse, he then proceeds to chase the boys around that are in this group, asking to get a drink.
Shut up. I can't.
Which is like, what?
No, get new friends.
Herb. I did
We're calling him
Herb.
His
name is
Herb, just so everybody
knows.
Baumeister. We've made an executive decision. It is
like,
Herb.
Herb, you're not going to take a drink. He's like going after their crotches. Like, I wonder what urine tastes like. Give me a drink.
He probably wants more than that. Let's face it.
Yes.
These guys, I don't care if it's the 60s. They're not stupid.
No, exactly.
Hey, that's like a 2-for-1 in his world.
Yes. This is, you guys, the awkwardness that I'm talking about. He did stuff like this constantly.
Like therapy. His dad's a doctor. Why did he not get a therapist?
Because his dad's a doctor. Mental health is in its infancy.
Oh, that's right.
And to admit that you have a child that needs mental health help.
You can't.
It would have taken him down notches.
Oh, yeah. God forbid.
In his status as doctor. So Ryan Green points out in his book that boys at his age which is like puberty at age, vocalize some of disgusting things that they consider to be funny, and even like a common mantra, like in the Stephen Smith case, was boys will be boys, right? Like we heard that a lot. So
people still say that.
They do. And so I liked that Ryan Green pointed this out. He said, if a girl of this time had behaved even a fraction of what Herb was up to, a girl would have been sent to a psychiatric hospital.
Oh, for sure.
But because he was a boy at this time, it was boys will be boys. And he's not wrong. If a girl chased around other girls wondering if urine tasted good, chilled or 98.6 degrees and wanted it right out of the tap.
You'd be in a fucking straitjacket.
Yes.
Locked in a ward.
Yep. So he was simply being laughed at and not scolded for his odd thoughts. So this escalates, and it starts into him doing some of the things that he was actually wondering about. So it goes from wondering to like trying. Yep. He was known to pee on his classmates' shoes as a joke.
Shut the hell up.
He put cut up worms in classmates' sandwiches and they're in their lunchbox. His friend caught him once on the brink of orgasm while poking his finger into the dead crow, like I told you. But to make matters worse, I had forgot this detail until I'm at this point in my notes now. His friend, he'd poked his fingers in, but then rubbed them all over his lips.
Oh, I can't.
And his friend Bill saw this.
I can't. I literally am smelling the stench of what these rotting corpses are on the side of the road.
And there's maggots everywhere.
Yes. How can you even get close enough to touch it?
Yep.
Without
Let
puking?
alone rubbing it on your lips.
Ugh.
And so.
Not to mention all the shit they carry. They're not like.
I know, I had thought that too.
Vaccinated creatures.
These are disease infested.
Yes. They eat other dead things.
They do. Then, to make matters worse, that same bird...
It can't get any worse.
Well,
Charnell.
It gets worse for the teacher because that same bird that Bill saw him getting off to was then put on the teacher's desk.
Shut the hell up.
He
Giving
was
it
putting,
as a gift.
Yes.
It's like a cat.
Yes. It's very primal. Very animalistic and primal.
Like, here, I'm giving you a gift.
Yep. And his friends did not tell other adults about this behavior, about the, being peed on by this boy, all the stuff he's doing to these. No, it was boys will be boys. He's the weird guy, the weird class clown. It's just, Herb being Herb. Literally, that's what they would say. Until one day, a teacher came back to her desk to find he had urinated on her desk. And his classmates didn't exactly throw him under the bus, but there was enough indication that everyone knew exactly who it was because they'd been peed on by this kid before. So, of course, and they, the bird on the teacher's desk. Well, now we're urinating on the teacher's desk.
I am not my dog knows better than to do that. And he pees on absolutely everything outside.
Your dog is doing it to mark things.
Yeah, I feel like he's marking territory.
He's getting off on this. He likes this. This is a part of his.
He likes to mark his territory with pee on people and things.
Urination is a part of his erotica.
I have never. Okay, so I know
right. Let's not
stuff.
Say you've never heard of it, Andrea.
I do know some fetishes are like that.
But this started.
But to me, fetishes are like when you're in the bedroom doing stuff with another partner.
Right. Consensually.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. No,
not
this is
doing it in a public school building to your teacher, peeing on her desk while she's not, or whoever was not there.
Unsuspecting,
and
unwilling,
not consensual whatsoever.
Yes. Yeah, this is horrible.
Nobody wants their stuff peed on by anything, in period.
Right. They did call his parents. This was okay, enough is enough.
Finally.
Yep. So the parents are like, okay, we see you, we hear you. They didn't even, this is the thing, they knew their kid was weird as fuck, right? And was probably capable of this. So they didn't deny it. They just told them, you know what, you're right. We're going to go ahead and get him some help. Because we can afford
we're going to
it.
get help, yeah.
They don't.
Well, no, because
they don't, but they tell the school that they're going to just to appease the school, okay? And so realistically, over the years, they did not make the referrals that they were constantly telling school personnel that they would make, because in the fact of the matter is they were worried about the fact that his father's medical connections, eventually it would come out and be realized.
And they would be able to, I'm sure wherever they took them, even though it's supposed to be, confidential with your patients.
Yeah,
obviously,
but no,
people
right.
talk within
exactly.
buildings, and even your secretary who makes the appointment, whatever.
Yes. Yep,
You
and that's
could
what
be
they were
having,
afraid of.
Pillow talk, and it would just kind of spread from there.
Yep. So they weren't willing to take that risk. So they just kept saying, "Yep, we'll make the referrals," and they had those connections that they could have, but they just didn't. So later in life, he is diagnosed with schizophrenia. I'll say that.
That makes
But
sense.
in the 1960s, mental health was just a teeny baby. It wasn't taken seriously, and not to mention, in his father's eyes, and this isn't wrong. This is not wrong, but his father knew the things that he would be subjected to if they put him in a mental health hospital.
Yes.
And it's true, especially in this era, and especially with the diagnosis of schizophrenia. There was, and electroshock therapy. And he knew his son would be subjected to that. So they weren't willing to do that.
I do see that part.
Yeah.
I do.
Me too.
That portion of it, I understand.
Yep.
As a doctor, especially, he would know. And
this is the exact same time, if you remember from the Stephen Smith case, that Dr. Milner was doing all those experiments on kids with both electric shock therapy and chemicals, drugs, all kinds of stuff, not to mention the sexual abuse things. So quite frankly, he probably did save him from enduring torture. Yep. Which God only knows what that would have done to his psyche, considering he's already chemically imbalanced enough.
Yes.
So I will say his friends do pull away from him, as I'm sure comes as no surprise.
I'm kind of glad.
But his father does too. Like, he is now, he's not living up to his father's expectations. He is a very influential, successful doctor.
He doesn't want the ties.
And he's got this weird kid that's got issues in his mind, and no. So his teachers do what they can to evade and ignore him. And he actually is very intelligent. I feel like we say that a lot about people who end up being serial killers. Although he is really intelligent, he really stops participating with school, things. His grades start slipping. But he becomes more and more obsessed with darkness and death and all of those things that are arousing him. I mean, we see in teenagers that, their academics may slip a little bit once they get a taste of some of the pleasures of the flesh, if you will, and become more obsessed with it. Girls distract boys, boys distract girls, all of that stuff. But what's happening for him is that his mom is seeing this. She's seeing his grades slip. She's seeing him slipping into more weirdness, dark humor, doing weird things, having strange thoughts like, I wonder what urine tastes like. Okay, he's not filtering any of those things. And his mom, though, she is legitimately bonded to him.
I was going to say that had to have been terrible for her because they were so close.
They were.
And you can't help your child.
And she actually said that she struggled and she cried a lot during their interactions because her heart was broken.
I'm sure.
For the fact that she knows he needs help, but she doesn't know how to get him the help. I mean, legitimately, what is going to help him, with this? So,
especially back in the 60s, even 70s, it was...
This is hard.
And not all names were there for mental health.
No.
Let alone treatment.
Yeah.
So yes.
And how do you bring your child out of this type of darkness when this is what arouses them?
Yes.
This is how they're getting.
And that makes it even worse. It's more of an attachment for him.
Throughout his teenage years, as his body developed and he learned, he actually learned a common trait of most psychopaths. He started to learn, as he saw how it's breaking his mom's heart, the way he was acting and whatnot. He does learn some sort of semblance of rational behavior. So for example, this is like knowing, like, when someone close to you dies, you should be sad, but you don't actually feel sad. You just fake sadness on the outside for the world to see because you know that's what people expect of you. Okay. Very
that's what
common.
You're supposed to do.
Yep.
Yes.
This is a very common trait for like psychopaths, sociopaths, those sorts of things. Those traits are not used, or those names are not used in the DSM-5. It's personality disorders, wrapped up into personality disorders now. But we see this. They learn how to, like, I'm not actually sad that this happened to this person. I just know society expects me to be sad, so right now I'm going to fake sadness. That's what Herb ends up doing. Is he finds this balance through his puberty and interactions with his parents and his classmates and all this stuff, that he needs to start acting more normal, if you will.
Yes, on a show when he's in public.
Yes, yep, exactly. I should note that this does not mean that someone that has these traits will become killers, but a lack of empathy makes them more prone to kill because their moral compass is not pointing north, right? He recognizes that he has a fascination with the smell, the taste, the feel, and the look of death. And that is a turn on for him, but it's not a turn on for others. So he starts to hide it or like fake it.
So right now, is he only he's only messing around with the dead animals when he finds them? Mm-hmm. Is he killing them? Okay, so he's just finding them.
Yep.
And then
we actually have no information that says he killed animals.
Okay.
At all. No, he does this as well with, he knows, quote, he's not supposed to be sexually attracted to other men because it's not acceptable for the time. Exactly. So he hides it. He hides that as well. But the world was confusing for him because he could see that and I could see how this would be confusing. He's like, wait, I can make subtle jokes about death and even being homosexual, but he couldn't find that balance of like that tendency to be like really extreme. We're too far. So he's constantly in this back and forth of like, wait, but they laugh at this, but then they don't laugh at this. And he doesn't understand that like you've taken it too far. He's struggling because he's faking all of this.
Yeah.
So he doesn't know where the line is because he literally can't see it. He gets a lot of conflicting social cues from people, which make his life and everyday reactions with people, or interactions with people, a struggle.
Well, it would be because everyone has a different sense of humor as it is. Yeah. Even the quote unquote normal people in society. Right. Like you and I can laugh at like some pretty fucked up stuff. I'll just
certainly, absolutely.
We can put our minds there, but then other people are like, that's not
like,
funny.
That's not funny. Yes, like, exactly.
Oh my God, no. Like there's just, and then there's the dry sense of humor people. Like,
yes,
it would be very hard if you could not even know what truly a joke is.
Yes, exactly.
And then trying to figure out your audience for your joke.
Yep.
Because that's different too.
It is. And he doesn't understand that some people might find things like this funny, whereas others aren't going to. How he handles this is he becomes more reclusive in order to have his dark and devious desires with less notice. He's just like, fine, people aren't for me then.
You have to.
He did graduate. When he graduated, he attended Indiana University, but he was not well received at Indiana University because of his dark sense of humor and his desires, and it's no longer by a college professor and classmates that don't know him. It's not it's no longer being chalked up to boys being boys, or that's just weird Herb being weird Herb, right? No, he was treated really poorly when he was there. Obviously, he was doing things that were not appropriate. So he returns home before the end of his first semester, which causes a big problem with his dad.
Oh, well,
his successful dad. He was less than impressed. In his mind, this made his dad look bad because his firstborn son can't even get through one semester of college without leaving.
And I wonder if the dad got excited for him leaving because that took the focus off of my weird child. Well, and then you come back and it's like, oh, shit.
Legitimately, his dad was like, you know what? College is going to be good for him. He's going to straighten himself out.
Oh, so he was one of those. Like,
so now we've lost
the answer to all.
Yes, just growing up, maturing more. and getting that degree and going on to he's going to straighten up. His dad does help him get an entry-level job at the Indianapolis Star, all right, as a copy boy. So he's making copies. Now, he is a copy boy, but he dresses in a suit and tie like he was like the editor of this newspaper, okay? He tried rubbing elbows with all the higher ups and was determined to be successful after dropping out of college. So the thing is, he's still making like oddball and dark remarks, but luckily for him, the advertising executive, Gary Donna, had himself a little bit of a dark and twisty sense of humor as well. And so he would just fall onto the safe, like the comments of like, that's just Herb being Herb. He was like willing to accept him more. And so he takes him under his wing a little bit. Well, one day at work, they were planning on going to a football game, and he's not into sports. Like, he's not a jock, but he wants to fit in. So he's like, you know what? You guys want to go to Indiana University football game? Whatever. I'm going to drive you. So they're like, oh, okay. So he shows up wearing a chauffeur's outfit with the hat on to his coworkers.
I cannot.
With the hat on, and tells them like, Herb Baumeister at your service.
Shut the fuck up.
Yes.
What the hell? That's when you turn around and go back in your house. You're like, I can't.
Oh no, I'm gonna make it even darker.
What the
hold
hell?
your nubs, everyone.
What the hell is wrong with this?
He went to pick them up in a fucking hearse.
Shut up. What the fuck?
He was gonna chauffeur them in a hearse.
Just sit in the back. I have a box ready for you.
Yes. Yeah. His dad had connections at the hospital that put him in touch with one. And so he buys this hearse at a freaking discount.
Oh my God.
And this is what he ends up driving.
Like, hey, come on in.
Mm-hmm.
One can sit up front. The rest can sit in the box in the back.
Yep.
Wearing a chauffeur outfit.
He bought it. And now he's going to drive it. And he shows up to drive yep.
Oh my God.
So obviously he didn't get the lavish praise that he so desperately wanted from this, okay?
I am in utter shock.
Yeah.
I can't. My mouth is like wide
But these are the awkwardnesses where he's like,
that's beyond awkward.
He
you
goes
go
too
way
far.
too far.
Yep. There's another example of Herb going too far socially. So the thing is that, and this is another like pretty common trait. He, in his mind, deserved to be at the top. He didn't want to work his way up, Andrea.
He wanted it handed to him.
He's a narcissist, and so he is better than everybody else. And he came to work dressed in a suit, and he's rubbing elbows with the higher-ups. Why was he not made editor immediately, right? So he's pissed off because this doesn't get him where he wanted. He isn't getting the instant success that he wants, so he quits this job. He's no longer a copy boy. His father,
that his dad got for him.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, and we're going to see that a lot. His dad gets him a lot of jobs. So he is livid. His dad is so pissed. He sharts. He might have sharted. He was so pissed.
He probably did.
We don't know. But he was livid and he was shaming him. He's like, I will make you a deal. I just want you to complete one class at the university. One class to prove that you can complete something. So what does Herb pick? His one class? Human anatomy.
Of course.
Mm-hmm. So his dad is like, fuck yeah.
You can be a doctor.
Yes, the apple's not falling far from the tree here.
What I've always wanted.
Yep. If you're interested in human anatomy, maybe this can blossom into something more. When instead, the apple had fallen way before it was ripe, rolled down the hill, ended up in a ditch where it was eaten by worms and rodents, and then shat out in a dramatic fashion all over some unsuspecting persons.
Oh, God.
For sure. Like, he was so wrong about why his son wanted to take this class. He was very far from the family tree. He picked it because he hoped that he would be able to assist with an autopsy on an actual dead person.
Oh my
because
God.
That's what they let you do in an entry-level course.
Oh,
Herb.
yeah.
So luckily he did not.
Thank God.
But the class did still interest him, and he stopped trying to gain social attention and focus. Like he was not the class clown. He actually put his mind to work, and he did really well because it kept his attention. Like, more what you were saying earlier. He dressed well for class each day. He was quiet and studious, and his father became really pleased.
So he finished this class.
He does. He finishes this class. And this accomplishment in school and praise from his father gave him confidence. So he started to go out and enjoy some of the nightlife that Indianapolis had to offer at this point. So he's a young adult, feeling good, getting a little bit more confidence, and he decides that he's going to go into Indianapolis and he's going to visit some gay bars.
Okay.
And drag acts and things like that. Instead of driving his usual hearse, because he would have been identifiable.
A red flag, yes. That one would be like highlighted, balloons attached to it. Like, here I am. Yep. Yeah, you can't drive the hearse.
He took public transportation.
That was a smart move.
Yes. But at this point in time, this is where we start to see him live two different lives.
Oh,
okay.
Gosh.
He compartmentalizes himself, quite frankly. So he could be one person in Indianapolis, the downtown nightlife in Indianapolis, more true to himself, really, than he's ever been, because he can go into gay bars, and be open. Other people there have those common interests as well.
And a lot of the same stories, besides the gruesome, like, wanting
cut
to
out the being aroused by death.
Yes, death in poking and rubbing stuff on your face.
They're going through the same things.
Yeah, like they're hiding from their family.
Right.
They too kind of have a separate life.
Yes.
But without the psychopath attachments.
Yes. Yep. The other thing is that he was even like able to casually sprinkle in some of his dark humor, because these people had been going through some shit too, of like being shamed by their families, not being accepted, all this stuff. So they have more of an open mind. Back at his other life at the university, though, he joins this group called the Young Republicans Club. He did this to please his father.
Of course.
And he had like very extreme right-wing views on politics, even though they were a total contradiction to how he led his life.
In what he
stands for. So it is weird.
It's not crazy, because it totally makes sense with his
because
upbringing.
in his mind, he feels like he should be ashamed he's been made to feel like he should be ashamed.
And the times.
Exactly. So he's jumping on this polar opposite bandwagon, joining this club to act like he agrees.
Yes.
Like, yes, no one should be homosexual, yada, 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 whatever. So he expresses these very strong right-wing political views and ends up gaining respect in this organization. And he meets a woman named Juliana Sater, Saiter, who was a high school English teacher. She shares his political views. They both had an interest in cars. She was really clean cut, well dressed.
I don't like where this is going.
It's not going anywhere too bad yet. Yeah, no, Julie's not a victim.
Okay.
Julie's not a victim. Now, typically, this is exactly what his parents had wanted for him. Julie was a good distraction for him from his morbid obsessions with corpses and death. All right. So he actually stops visiting the gay scene for a while in Indianapolis, and he starts dating Julie. This is the first woman that he has ever dated. And he, for a while, kind of looks like a law-abiding citizen to the naked eye. Yep. But how many times have we seen this when someone with a chemical imbalances to this magnitude tries to repress their innermost passions and desires?
And try to make daddy happy.
It never ends well. Now, because this is the first woman he's ever brought home, Herb's mother keeps her lips sealed.
Well, she does not want her to know anything.
No, she knows about her son's dark desires and issues, but she's not telling Julie. Okay, she's hoping Julie's relationship is going to fix him. So when they dated, Herbert actually went to many job interviews that just didn't work out because there were a lot of people that could see through him. He couldn't maintain himself. Like, he would, even in job interviews, there would be some of that dark humor, some of that twisty stuff.
Going too far.
Yep, and going too far come out.
Reading his audience.
Yep, and it left people uncomfortable. He was described as having kind of an aura of chaos. And people could see his lack of empathy, frankly. It gets to the point where his relationship with Julie, he can't find a job, and his relationship with Julie is like the only stable thing happening in his life. So he just goes ahead and asks her to marry him.
Of course, because that makes total sense.
Yep. Because
what
this
you do
is,
next.
he's clinging desperately to keep up with the standards of his father and society.
A victim in the fact that I think it sounds like she really did love him and care for him.
She really does.
So
yeah, she really does.
Everything's based on a lie.
Yeah.
In a
oh,
show.
yeah.
She is kind of a victim.
She is, and later in life, she does the right thing. But yes, she absolutely is. But I was just letting you know, she's a survivor.
Yeah, she's a survivor.
Not a murder victim. And she must have just been okay with his, because he wasn't maintaining around her always.
You couldn't.
If he couldn't during a job interview.
Yeah, you couldn't at home.
Yeah, and so I think she was just, that's just Herb being Herb. That old thing. When he's acting like that. If you think about
it, we have even our husbands do stuff that we're like, oh my God. Mm-hmm. Or you just ignore because you're like, I can't.
Exactly. That's Matt being Matt.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's things about me
Chad
too where he's
Chad,
just like.
It's like, whatever.
Absolutely.
You just
and there are
let
things.
It go.
Yes. So in 1971, they marry at the United Methodist Church in Indianapolis. And as expected from a respectable doctor in the early 70s, the wedding was like the social event of the season. And Herb at this point had learned to navigate unfamiliar social events with like a calm demeanor, no longer trying to get attention and navigate using inappropriate comic outbursts. Okay. So everyone who attended it that knew him previously was really surprised, like that knew him in high school and stuff, was really surprised to see it kind of looked like he had grown up. Right.
Yes. So, age will do that. They just put it in that category. He's matured, grew out of it.
And at this point, Julie and Herb had not been physically intimate because of their good Christian upbringing.
Wasn't that convenient for him?
Yes, that prohibits sex before marriage. But now they're married, and there is no escaping this for him. And remember, women do not turn him on at all. Very early on, like Julie takes notice that he would only change in the bathroom, and that he did seem to kind of be disgusted when she would parade around in front of him naked, trying to get his attention. And this is where my heart breaks for Julie, because she wanted to be intimate with him and he wouldn't. And so she chalked it up to him just being really shy and sweet. She had heard stories about how he wasn't popular in high school and wasn't the jock. And so she thought, you know what? Maybe he just needs some more confidence. So she becomes more brazen in her attempts to be intimate with him.
Yes.
Yeah, she tries to become a little siren, and he becomes more withdrawn. The problem is the more pressure that's put on him, the less stable he's becoming with his mental health.
Well, yeah.
The stressors, right? He's already repressing all of his internal desires and trying to fake himself into thinking that they're not there.
If their marriage doesn't work due to intimacy, what will society
his
think
parents
and his
think?
dad?
Yep. So Julie reaches out to Herbert Sr.
Oh my God, no.
And tells him about this. And in less than 24 hours, they have him committed to a psychiatric unit for treatment for depression. Because in, Herbert Sr.'s mind, like, okay, he doesn't want to be intimate with his wife. He's becoming more withdrawn. He is like being more chaotic because of the fact that she's putting on more pressure and he doesn't know how to handle it. And the reason he doesn't know how to handle it is because none of this stuff is really him, know. To his dad, it's like he must be depressed. But he was there for 2 months. And almost immediately, this is where the diagnosis of schizophrenia comes in, within like a day of him being there. At the same time, though, at this time, any abnormal cognitive dysfunction was schizophrenia. Yep. But this is good news for Herb, because he finally has a diagnosis to blame all of his dark thoughts, desires, and behaviors on. So he can stop beating himself up over it, because it's not Herb that gets off on dead things.
It's the schizophrenia.
It's schizophrenia, Herb. Yes. It's not really him. So he's like, this actually releases him. He feels really good. He comes out of his bout of depression because to him, none of his actions from this point forward, if he is to move on these desires, are his fault. Because
perfect.
Yes, he doesn't need to worry about it.
Did they do like an ongoing treatment that he was supposed to like?
No.
Or did they just
They
tell
released
him
him? And actually, his dad was like, "I see the signs of my son. He's normal again." His dad busts him out of there, ends the treatment abruptly.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. That's what you do as a doctor.
Well, and that's just it. The doctors were like, "Hold the phone. There is treatment that he needs to follow up on and medications that he needs to follow up on." But because of the stigma on mental health, the good doctor, Herbert Baumeister Sr., was like, "Nope.
Peace out.
Yep, my son's good. We're busting him out of this joint, and we will not be doing any more follow-up treatment." Mm-hmm.
101 of do not do with mental health.
Right.
Like, that's the very first fucking chapter.
Exactly. So when he returns home, his sex life with Julie starts to take off, actually.
Really?
They start to be intimate because he no longer feels ashamed to fantasize about necrophilia when he's with her because of his schizophrenia. It's okay
tell her to just
now.
lay there and, like, don't breathe,
Yes.
don't move?
Yes, he did. And they
Keep
could
your
only...
arms really tight, so I think it's like, you know.
Yep. She still couldn't see him naked, though. Every sex act that was carried out had to be done in the dark, which again, Julie is just like, okay, this is because he is ashamed of his body because he was picked on as a child for not being a jock, and I'm just going to, go with it. I'm sure she was just probably happy to finally be getting laid.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Yeah, however you need to do it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
But she also is kind of turned on by the fact that now he has confidence and he's acting around the house more like a man. He's making decisions. He's being a part of the marriage stereotypically how a man should in this time in the 70s, okay?
So she is
and she likes
that
this.
change.
Yes, she likes that he literally is acting, quote, more like a man. So if there was a disagreement, like a good wife, she would just go ahead and agree with his side because that's what wives do. And she was happy to see him like taking initiative and even have an opinion about stuff because he's out of his depression, right? And she felt in her mind, that's how marriage should be. The wife dotes on the husband and goes with whatever the husband
Sounds
says.
like somebody that's codependent on.
Well, yeah, but you do have to think about those times, man.
That's how it was.
It was. Women really, you were a bad wife if you told your husband what to do or you disagreed with him and didn't follow his lead.
I would have been a horrible wife. Like,
there's a
people
reason I was born when I was born.
People would have wrote columns about do not do what Andrea does.
Absolutely.
And how is she still married?
Yep.
Like, my mom still gets up and makes my dad breakfast. Like, every morning, if he got up at 3, she would be up at 2 making him a hot breakfast. I'm like, peace out, see you when you get home from work. I don't even wake up.
Right.
And Chad, we were literally just talking about this, and Chad goes, I knew when I married you that was not you.
Yeah. No, not the type of wife I'm going to be.
If you want somebody like that, like.
It's not how Julie is. She's going to have 3 meals a day on the table for her husband.
Oh my God, bless her.
He's going to go and be the breadwinner. Although
but did he get
teaching.
a job yet?
No,
so
no.
How is
We're
he
getting
the
to that.
Breadwinner
he does get a job through the help of his father again at the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, and he stays in this job for quite some time.
Sounds good.
But she's also still teaching. She doesn't quit her teaching job because
good.
She was a teacher when they met. And so she's just accepting, him. He does decide, though, when he gets out of the mental health hospital, actually. He does tell her, you know what, I am going to start taking some me time, okay? I'm going to be going on long walks, long drives. I want to be left alone with my thoughts. I might go visit some old friends, maybe even go to the local library and take some time for myself. And Julie's like, okay, I'm going to accept this. He's going to gay
bars, isn't he?
He absolutely is. Okay. Yes, 100%. But Julie is accepting this of like, okay, what my man says goes. Yep. He wants this time to himself. I'm going to give him this time to himself. Okay. He does get a job at the Bureau of Motor Vehicles with the help of his dad. It was an entry-level position, but he did soon start to feel as though he could be moving up within the ranks. He was meticulous and he did everything by the books. Like, he is a rule follower when it comes to like, this is how you file this form.
So crazy.
You've got to file this form. It's very black and white for him when it comes to job duties. Okay.
Which is good for
at the Bureau of Motor Vehicles.
That is amazing.
It's amazing.
And you can move up very quickly because
and that's exactly
they
what
don't have
happens.
to question what you're doing.
Yes. And even so, some of his other coworkers who have been there longer than him, he starts correcting their work. And it's like, this is how we're supposed to do it. Why aren't you doing it? His coworkers fucking hate him.
Oh, of course.
But
you
upper
do not
management,
want
you don't want Herb as
telling you that you're doing it wrong after 20 years.
Even though they were absolutely doing it wrong.
Sure. And then when you find out, like, the manager's like, really? Why haven't I caught this? Like, you would probably even be like, I need to keep him on my side so I don't get kicked out of my own office.
So he doesn't start critiquing my work. Mm-hmm. Well, that's just it. He's upper level management's wet dream.
Oh, of course.
So they love him.
Runs smoothly with old Herb working the counter.
It does. So he's a pain in the ass, but management's like, you know what? And they actually start considering him for leadership positions, which gives him more confidence. This is finally what he's been looking for, a way to move up. All right.
And you're working for the state, which is great.
Yep. So he's making money. Like, this is the most stable, really, that we've seen him be. But with this new confidence, he's taking his alone time, as he told Julie that he would be needing. And because it seems like there's a connection for him. Whenever there's confidence, then he goes to the gay bars and to the scene where he feels that he fits in because he has that confidence. And so he can go and he's hooking up with random men and he's being himself, being true to himself of who he really is. But here's the problem. He's doing all this and it should be making him feel good, right? But these men that he's having sex with are warm. They're alive. They make noise. They let him know that they are being pleased by what he's doing to them. They don't stay put where he positions them. None of these things are satisfying to him because necrophilia does not work like that. He wants his sexual experiences to be all about him. He does not want a warm body. He doesn't want one that's making noise. He wants to only hear his own pleasure and he wants total silence from his subject. He wants to be able to position this person exactly as he wishes and have them stay there. And these things are just not possible with a live partner. Okay? In the book, Ryan Green does talk about this one encounter with a young man. Herb does not even know his name. Okay?
Oh my God.
But he almost strangled this young boy to death. And the boy thought that they were playing an erotica, that they were doing like an erotica play. All right. And just kind of thinking that he just kind of liked it rough, whatever. And so he was talking, like he was agreeing with everything, even, with the strangulation and whatnot. This boy is like letting Herb know that he's enjoying it. Well, the continuous talking makes her, it did, and it makes him push harder and harder on this boy's throat to the point where he almost does take it too far. And afterwards, as he's reflecting, he realizes that this set a really dangerous precedent for him is what we think. This boy does not die. This is actually like a quote from Ryan Green's book, quote, like a true psychopath, he wanted the world to revolve around him. He wanted other people to be his playthings, not his equals, end quote. But in this point in time, he had not considered that he could kill until that moment when he almost did, because he realized what the problem is. He doesn't want them talking. He doesn't want them moving. None of this is appeasing to him. This is about as appeasing to him as sleeping with his wife. So in the meantime.
And now with the wife, I'm assuming that they've kind of had talks where you don't move and
Julie
please
knows.
Don't talk.
Yeah. Julie knows what he's, I don't think that her mind is going to necrophilia. No. But she is thinking this is just what his preferences are.
That would suck.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Seriously.
I talk for a living, right? You think that I could shut up that? No. I would have a really hard time with that. I really would.
No.
So in the meantime, he is starting to get more comfortable at work, and he starts testing his limits a little bit more because he feels like these people are his friends. He sent out a Christmas card with him posing with a festive drag queen, which he said was a funny joke. And I do think I love it.
That would be on my fridge year round.
Yes,
I would be like, yes.
But that's us today. In this time, they're
can't
like,
do it then. But I love that idea. Like, I might have to steal it.
Yes, but what they're saying is they did start to wonder if he was homosexual, and they're just like,
was his wife on the card too,
no,
or just him?
It's just him. Julie, of course, wants to start a family.
Well, yeah,
that's the next step. She's a teacher, right? She does, but the problem is, how does one start a family? You have to have sex with your husband. And this becomes
more
an
than
issue.
once normally,
Yep.
you know, unless you have perfect timing.
Yes, and they're not. I think that in Ryan Green's book, it said something like they'd had sex 6 times or something like that. But I don't know if that was
6
him
times.
Guesstimating or if that was an actual statement from
Like
Julie.
6
It wasn't
times in a
quotes.
week, right?
Mm-mm.
Oh my God.
No, in
Poor
total.
Julie. Julie is a victim.
She absolutely
is a
This
victim.
poor girl. I hope she was getting some on the side to satisfy her
even
needs.
She had
but
toys, something.
thank you. I know. Me too.
That
but I don't
poor
know.
lady.
Strong Christian upbringing. I'm
really
say probably
thinking
not.
no.
Mm-hmm. Isn't masturbation
Yeah, like some
frowned
are,
upon?
I believe so. I do not know as much as Jason on the random facts, like, you know, raccoons up the anus.
Yeah.
I do not. I literally
That's
am
not
jealous
what you're
of
bringing
Jason,
to the podcast, and that's okay.
knowing everything that he knows. I really need to meet Jason because I feel like he's an open encyclopedia of weird shit.
Trust me.
And I know he's going to
gets
hear
freaky.
this. And Jason, we need to be friends. FYI. I do believe that is like
I know.
a
Yeah,
taboo.
it is a frowned upon thing because you're supposed to save that for your partner and
Yes.
yada yada. Well, it takes it takes them a long time to get pregnant. Okay, they do get pregnant, but it did take
So he was on
10
the band?
years into their marriage.
Oh my God. Probably because they only had
Well,
sex 8 times.
Yes, that's just it. And like you said, I mean, there's only a 24-hour period when
Yes.
when a woman can become pregnant.
And I'm
So-
pretty sure back then they didn't quite know the
Right.
calculations. And I'm sure it wasn't wrote on the home calendar. at
No,
home.
definitely not. So they do have, in total, they do have 3 children together, but the first one came 10 years after they got married. So it started in 1979 with Marie, and then they had Eric 2 years later, and then 3 years after that, Emily. So they do have 3 kids together.
God.
And I'm sure you're probably wondering what kind of father like he might have been.
My guess is hands off.
You know, it's funny. That's a good guess because I think all of us would guess that. He was the exact opposite.
He was great.
He was a hands-on, really good dad. Like, before he becomes,
that
a
almost
murderer.
makes me sad too, because then his children are victims having their dad
who
live
they
a
love
double
and are
life.
bonded with. Yes.
It would be better if he wasn't hands-on.
I mean, he worked, but he was there for the kids.
And he's still at the DMV, right?
He is. Yep.
Okay.
He's still with the motor vehicles. He gave his kids love and affection that he couldn't give his wife. And he spent as much time with them as he could. He still goes on his alone time. Okay.
Yes.
He's still engaging in that without Julie knowing what that really means. But after his kids come, it's not as often.
You know what's
Okay.
weird is I'm surprised even back then, like with all the transmitted diseases, HIV, you know, was kind of starting then.
It was
like when the epidemic was starting with that.
Yep.
Especially in the gay community.
Yes.
That kind of makes me wonder how he got lucky there.
Well, it is mentioned in the book. He does end up
So I'm
contracting
jumping
some
ahead, sorry.
STDs, but it becomes a part of the Indianapolis gay scene specifically.
Yes.
It was hit very, very hard with that, and there were a lot of people dying and sick, and he almost uses that to his advantage when he starts picking victims of like picking people who have like kind of been through it all and seen it all and, went through that struggle
that
in the
want
60s
the
and 70s.
companionship and wants to feel loved. Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah. So he like spent money on his kids. Okay. He was all the things to him that his father like wasn't. He was home with them as much as he could be. He was warm and present for them.
Which is good. He's breaking that cycle.
Yes. Well, yep. And
That
that's
was
just
great.
it to him.
Breaking the cycle of being a shitty dad.
To him,
being
he's
a good
like
dad.
flipping his dad off to
Yeah.
be like, I'm a better father. I am better at you
Yes.
with something.
And
I'm a better
I am
father.
a better father of 3.
But this doesn't come without stress, because now the kids are cutting into his alone time, which means less of an outlet.
Yes.
Right? There's stress at work.
Julie still wants time.
Of course. Yep. So he can only keep himself stable for so long without the immediate outlet. So he starts creating this outlet. He reverts back to some of his old tricks from childhood.
God.
He starts urinating on his boss's desk. This goes on for months, and it becomes pretty obvious to people at work. Now,
this is his friend, like the boss that he picked him up in a hearse, or is this?
No.
Okay,
this is
so
the Department of Motor Vehicles job.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking of the paper.
Nope. Yep. Not the paper. Yes. No, this is like just when people piss him off at work, he's reverting back to those childhood, things. And for whatever reason, though, they do let him get away with this for a while because he was so good at his job and efficient at his job. Like, seriously.
I don't care how efficient you are. You piss on my desk, you're done.
And
I don't care.
They're part of a union.
I'll rub your nose in it.
No, I don't.
Union leader, come. I will rub your nose in it, too.
And for a while, they tolerate this. Until one day, he had pissed on the wrong paper because he pissed on a letter from the governor of Indiana.
Oh, shit.
So this was the last straw for the boss.
You don't piss on the governor's paper.
You don't. No, that is too far. Any other of the papers.
That's like the main head honcho there.
Not the governor.
Don't piss on no.
So they make him a deal. They're like, listen, if you don't put up a fuss about the fact that we are firing you because we know you did this, we won't tell everybody that you did this. Oh. And that you have been pissing on people's things for a long time. Does that sound like a good deal, Herb?
I would hope he would take that because that would not look good coming out.
He did. He takes it. He steps away without a fuss. He's older now. He's not a young buck looking. He's
That's
not old,
even worse.
But now
seriously.
Right.
That makes it 10 times worse.
Yep. But now he's thrust back into looking for jobs when he is no longer
and he had an amazing one, it sounds like, that he was great at.
He lasted at that job for 10 years. Yeah, he had that job for 10 years.
And now daddy is going to be like, what the fuck's wrong with you?
Right. So it's literally about the time that he starts having kids and the stress of that, even though he's a good dad,
the stress of making himself be a good dad, though.
Yes. And he doesn't have that outlet. He's not going to the scene in Indianapolis as much. And so it comes out pretty fast for him that he starts behaving like this. But his dad does get him he did some odd jobs for a while. Julie was teaching part-time. He was doing odd jobs. But then he gets a traveling sales job.
Oh, shit. Mm-hmm. Traveling's not good. Mm-mm.
And Julie was actually really supportive of him doing this. Now, I don't know if it's just at this point she's like,
get the fuck out of the house.
Like, whatever, dude. You're weird. Go away. But during this time, we know that he was driving up and down I-70. We know he was picking up male hitchhikers, sex workers. We know that he was being crude and gruff and as rough as he wanted, being himself. He no longer had to hide anything.
Have any of the community there to witness this, and these people would have no idea who he was.
Exactly. Police reports at this time are coming in from sex workers and hitchhikers and things of the like, reporting a man that fits his description for how rough and gruff and all of this stuff that he was doing. But it was just this is all hindsight. We figure this out later, and I'll bring it back up at the point in time when they do figure this out, okay? It was the reporting source that they weren't taking seriously. You're a sex worker. You were hitchhiking. You're just a boy on the side of the road that doesn't have a family. You're not a good member of society. Yes. So we're just going to write all this down, and we're not really going to take you seriously. But there were tons of police reports that are dug up later and match his description. And it matches with the timeline of when he started being a salesman on traveling I-70. He would tell boys that no one rides for free, so they either had to pay for the gas or pay with ass. And that was kind of like his mantra. At this point, he's living a double life. He would frequent unsavory truck stops where his crude jokes and sick mindedness was not frowned upon. I mean, what are they going to do? During the long drives, he could fantasize about necrophilia without being interrupted. He loved this. So it was
I
during.
don't even want to know what he was doing in the car while thinking of that. Like,
nope.
I don't.
Nope.
I guarantee it was a sticky mess in there.
Oh, I'm sure.
There's
and he's
not
driving
enough,
his own vehicle.
Baby wipes in the world, and I hope he had leather seats. Cool.
Definitely ends up getting
This has
impounded.
ruined like a lot of my life, just so you know.
I'm sorry. Now you bicycle everywhere.
Yes. I'm going to be like, I'm just huffing it. I'll be there in 4 hours.
Right. My GPS says by walking,
yes,
I'll be there in 4 hours.
27 days. If I leave right now.
Yep. So it's during this time when he's traveling door to door that he has all this time to fantasize, right? So he starts to take that fantasy to reality. He picked up a young boy who needed a ride. The boy was familiar with what you have to do to get rides, and he did not protest
so sad.
when he was told to get in, or when he was told to suck. So trigger alert to some things here. He did not protest when he was told to get into the back seat even. He actually had even removed his own pants, putting himself in position so that he could get the ride. Okay. And I mean the car ride. So it was this encounter that Herb realizes he's no longer satisfied with just erotic asphyxiation, and he made the decision that this would be the time when everything that he's dreamed and fantasized about since he was a young child was going to come true. So he forced himself on the boy.
Pandora's box.
It is. This, and we don't have an exact timeline of when this happened, okay? We don't know how many people he had victimized before this that were survivors there, because I told you there's all those police reports. But this young boy's body is like the first to be discovered. And so this is where for him they start the timeline. That does not mean that there weren't more undiscovered.
Yes.
Yep.
This is just the one that started
investigators can pinpoint
that this was him.
At this point in time, some point in time during the exchange, he goes from erotic asphyxiation. And we know that because there are survivors that almost die.
Well, yeah, earlier we had the boy
And later on, how he ends up getting caught, we know his MO.
Okay.
Is he starts with this whole, hey, I learned about this way to have a great orgasm. It's called erotic asphyxiation. Want to try it. And he tricks his victims into oh yeah sure, thinking that this is a consensual thing and that it's gonna stop. And this boy is just trying to get a ride somewhere, and
that breaks my heart too.
Yes, when he tells him, he tricks him into I'm gonna do this thing, and the
you'll
boy
enjoy it, and then I'll give you a ride.
Yes, and so the boy allows it. He wraps his fingers around his throat. And he squeezes until there's no life left. This, at some point in time, as it does with all serial killers, the fantasy goes to reality. And
now we can fulfill his desires.
And so, right. But as we see, like we do with most serial killers, there's almost always something that's just that wasn't quite perfect about it, right?
Well, yeah.
So then we've got to do it again.
Because it doesn't truly satisfy. It's never ending.
And it never will. So they continue to do
ending.
It. So
isn't strangulation actually super hard to do? Because if you don't hold on long enough.
Yeah, you let air back in.
Yes. Our bodies are meant to breathe.
It's very, very strenuous and taxing to do.
I had always read and heard. It was not an easy way to kill somebody.
But something you should know about him and his MO, he always picks petite men.
Okay. So he can
men that he can have dominant.
And,
always, he would never take somebody that might put up too much of a fight.
And that's scary too, because he.
But that's
is meticulous
also right. But that's also a very big trait of serial killers. Yeah. Absolutely,
that is definitely an MO right there on their victims.
So we know from the body of the victim that it appears as though he spent hours with the body until he was physically exhausted, and then just leaves him on the side of the road. One of his big fantasies that they know just based on all the things he would joke about is that he loved to fantasize about roadkill. And so that's another part of his MO too, is he literally dumps these bodies and makes these boys
look like
roadkill. Mm-hmm.
So bodies were easily found then. They were
Yeah.
not discarded in a woods.
They weren't
underground.
hidden.
They weren't
No,
buried.
no. They're in ditches. They're on the side of the road.
Oh my God.
He typically picked young boys who really seemed to be lost in the world, that didn't have family ties to come looking for them. It eventually becomes very obvious to the police that they have a serial killer on the loose with an MO for young male sex workers, transient boys, those sorts of things. But since society looked down on those things, there was really there was no pressure to solve such cases. So they just sat open on the back burner. And especially when there's not any family pressure to find their missing loved one. So there was one report, though, where there was an eyewitness. Police interviewed this person and even did a sketch of the person believed to be the perp. It absolutely matches his face, Herb's face completely, okay? But that picture was never circulated in the news. Yeah. So
no
they have
public eyes on it.
You know, through the later investigation, all of this comes forward and they look through this stuff and realize, oh my God, that was him. But at this point in time, so because of that was never circulated. It's not in the news. The police secretly know that they've got a serial killer that's killing these boys.
Which is crazy because now it would have been public.
Mm-hmm.
We even have officers that would literally go to districts and be like, I don't care that you're prostituting. You need to be careful. You need to watch out. You need to.
Yep, absolutely.
This
is what we're seeing.
I'm leaving. I'm not coming in to arrest you.
Right.
Don't let me find you in a ditch.
I do think that serial killers have less chance these days for having as many victims because of the way that jurisdictions can easily talk to each other through computer systems and whatnot. Now there's more pressure. Media is on it more.
Huge media outlets. Like anything. There was just a girl that was abducted down south, and it's all over Facebook already. And like, it's crazy. The pictures and tips. They found one of the cars associated within a 24-hour period.
I do think that
before
those
that wouldn't have done.
They could go on for years.
Yeah, maybe your local, radio station might touch on it, but
briefly,
if you weren't listening at the time, you didn't hear it.
No.
And worldwide news covered bigger, like, political things. They did not do the hometown.
Right.
Hey, you have somebody dying and we're up to 7 victims.
Yes.
Like,
nope.
That wasn't really heard of.
Right. So at this point in time, we have the police that are gathered that know that they've got
and it's hush hush.
That they've got a serial killer.
But they're not letting somebody.
Yeah, they're not letting. There's no pressure. They're not letting.
No, because
they're not actively looking into this, right?
They're runaways. They're homeless. They did it to themselves. That's the mentality they have.
So it's unknown. We'll tell you right now. At this point in time, we don't know how many victims fell prey to him when he was a traveling salesman on I-70. Because we don't know if some of the victims he left, more secluded in the woods that were never found, or just not, never really looked into, not chalked up to being a part of him.
They didn't actually die. I mean, I wonder if there are survivors that did happen to not pass from it.
Yeah.
If he didn't do stuff afterwards and stay with the body for a long time, which I'm thinking that didn't happen.
He did. He stayed with the body as long as he possibly could.
Like, I would think if you position a body, you would be pissed when rigor mortis kicked in and it didn't stay where you wanted it.
Well, that's the thing. He stayed with the body as long as he could, as long as death would allow him to.
And then he would
discard them.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I wondered about that. I'm like, rigor mortis, you can't really stop.
No.
Like, they're going to move.
Yeah.
So they won't be in your little fantasy position you would like them to stay in.
Yep. And there's more on that to come in part 2. This is where we will end part 1 because after his first, what police document as his first known victim is a young boy who was a minor at the time. So that's why I'm not using his name. And they know we're at a point where we know we've got a serial killer, but we're not. It's on the back burner of everybody's minds. We're not really looking into it. And he was a traveling salesman for quite some time, so it's reasonable to believe that he had many victims
that nobody knows of.
Yeah, but we will get to the rest of the story in part 2.
So my life will never be the same.
Hang on for that. It does get even more gnarly in part 2.
How can it get more gnarly? I hope everyone else's lives are ruined like mine are. So I am not alone in this.
Great. Crime Curious. We're here to ruin lives.
You curious little bystanders and Patreons, I want to hear if it ruined, you know, you're walking with dead animals and, you know, used cars.
Are you walking with dead animals,
well,
Andrea?
When you
take walks and see dead animals?
I just put them on the leash and take them with my dog. Right. It's fine. I want them to still fulfill life.
Now you see why I invited you for this one. Because I see you walking your dead animals all the time. Jesus.
I'll just throw them in the bottom of the stroller.
Right.
It will be fine. We're fine over here.
Oh, God. Listen, I'm going to leave you on some dumb criminal things, okay?
That'll be good. I love brain baths.
I'm going to bathe you. It's going to be okay. And some of these I thought were really hilarious. Also with the mugshots. Also very funny. This one, in 2013, 2 men tried to rob a restaurant, but were told by the owner to come back after an hour.
Oh, my God. We don't have enough for you. We've only taken debit cards.
Yep. Come back in an hour.
We'll change our tips in for you.
Yep. It'll be fine. The men return.
Shut the hell up.
In an hour. And they are arrested.
Well, no. I can't imagine that, police would be there now.
So this is what is really funny, though. It's a late Sunday night. There's 2 men, Mario Garcia and 39-year-old, Domingo Garcia Hernandez, 28. They entered a West Rogers Park restaurant and demanded food. The owner told them that he was too busy. And upon hearing that, Garcia Hernandez said, "I will kill you. I have a gun with me."
For food?
Yeah. This is what it says that they were demanding.
Oh, my God.
Garcia Hernandez, who is 4 foot 8 inches tall.
Karate chop him, throat chop him, and be done.
Well, he displays his gun from underneath his jersey that he was partially concealing in a red shirt.
Like, I would not be able to take that serious.
So, concerned for the safety of his patrons, the owner asked them to come back in an hour. Okay.
And please leave your gun at home.
I see your gun. I don't want innocents to be hurt. I will give you food and money. Just come back in an hour when I'm not so busy and there's not so many people here.
Oh, my God.
So they left the premises. He calls the police. And surprisingly, both men return after an hour with a baseball bat this time.
Oh, we did leave. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. See, and it probably had nails in it. Like, I'm telling you.
Police arrested them on the spot and charged them with 1 count of attempted aggravated robbery. Later, the police found the firearm, which turned out to be a black toy water pistol.
I called it!
Yes, he did. And it was wrapped in a red T-shirt and hidden in the backyard of one of the suspects' home.
They will never find it.
That is the clumsiest
It's like
attempt
leaving it
at
on
anything.
the coffee table and with a neon sign that says, "This is what I use."
The wedding. They're the weapon.
And I have water in it, accessible and ready at all times.
But honestly, I mean, oh gosh, that's got to be a different type of charge. I think it was food and money, but
still, like, here, I'm going to give you the register and I'll make you a burger. What would you like on it?
If they had probably just went in and asked for food, they might have just been able to get it, but
without the gun. And next time wear stilts so you're not 4 foot, you
so easily identifiable.
You need to at least be like 5'11" or taller to try to
Which
intimidate.
I think is why the guy was like, okay, he probably could tell it was a water pistol too. So he's like, come back in an hour. We'll get this
figured out. Please don't shoot me. I don't want the grease to splatter.
Yeah. Please.
Water and grease do not mix, please, sir.
I just redid the upholstery.
Yes. I don't need grease all over. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, my God.
So this next one says a Chinese thief snatched. Why do we care that they're Chinese? I don't get it. A thief snatched a woman's phone and ran into a nearby building to escape. The building turned out to be a police station.
That is perfect. And I bet she laughed her ass off.
Right.
Was like, thank you for going before I had to.
This actually did happen in China, and the suspect, surnamed Chang, had only arrived in Shenzhen. Sorry,
Sounds
guys.
good.
Yep, nailed it. And He hadn't been there very long, so he's not familiar with the neighborhood, which is how this all happened. So he grabs her phone, he runs through traffic straight into a building, which was actually a police station, and he had no idea.
If you were a tourist, maybe you wouldn't be able to read the big sign. I'm sure there is a sign on it that says police.
Maybe, but he's given chase. So he's running away from her. So that's true.
He's probably not looking and reading.
Yes. She chased after him and stumbled, but managed to get up and continued chasing him. And when she reached the police station, she shouted help, and a police officer promptly arrested the man on spot.
Oh, my God. You're like, here's your cell. You only had 3 more steps.
Right.
Thank you. I did not even have to get the car out.
Right. Making our job so easy. I
wish, could you tell the other criminals how to do this? Mm-hmm. And I bet he was like, I'm such a jackass.
Right. I mean,
over a phone.
Before you're going to go robbing, at least
look at
a
your
map.
Surroundings.
Right. Like, figure out within your new location. You know, you just moved to a new city. I get it. It can be confusing, but you should probably know your escape
route. Or while you're running, look up and read where you're running into. And I'm sure when you stepped in and saw everybody in their uniforms and desk,
he probably shat himself at that point in time.
I would assume you knew you made a big error.
Big mistake.
Like, sorry.
Yep.
Could I please rewind
oh, shit,
time?
I got to play it cool. Play it cool. This is my purse.
I just need to take a shit. Do you have a bathroom?
Right. With my purse. My man purse. Right here.
It's under my shirt. It's really a beer gut.
Yes.
Bulky.
Let's see. This next one says, a guy with a mask tries to rob a Radio Shack he works at with a stun gun and pepper spray. He ends up tasing himself, returns later to work his shift, and gets arrested. Jesus criminy.
Oh, the tasing yourself always gets me.
This happened in Florida, 2014. Of course, it was a Florida man.
They are so, I don't know what they drink down there, but it is something else.
It is. Wearing a blue ski mask, a man, Andre T. Puskas, entered the store. That is his last name. I didn't even fuck that up.
His
last name is Puskas. Maybe Puskas, but I'm calling him Puskas. Yep, he entered the store at 9:30. He had pepper spray and a stun gun along with him.
Oh,
inside the store, an employee dropped to the floor but tried to move. Andre saw her and pepper sprayed her. How freaking rude.
She's already on the ground.
Right. There's no need. Also, he also would have got pepper sprayed. It's in the air now,
it's not
dumbass.
Good.
No. As the woman ran, Puskas then tried using a taser on her, but ended up tasing his own hand. So then he runs out of the store and tosses. Yes.
Sorry, I just shook the whole
table. It's okay. Shaking. Yes. He's tased himself. So he runs out of the store, tosses the mask in a dumpster. Then he returns at 4:00 to the same Radio Shack for his regular shift and was arrested. Like, they're like, wait.
You didn't even get anything.
Nope.
And you pepper sprayed your
coworker
who was already on the ground.
For no reason.
And I hope that taser left a hole in your hand.
You know, he's probably like, how'd they know it was me? It's weird.
No cameras. I bet there was no cameras outside in the parking lot.
It's 2014.
Yeah.
They're
everywhere.
Right.
They saw where you dumped it and saw your face when you turned around.
Also, she probably recognized your voice, you dumb fuck.
You probably talked to her and been like, Suzanne, I'm really sorry.
Susie!
I want the latest scanner.
Yes. Oh, shit.
Don't move. Oh, wait. Shit. I pepper sprayed everybody.
Okay, this next one's really good, though. A thief got caught when he dialed 911 after the truck he had stolen ran out of gas. Oh, he's 19.
Could you please give us a fill up? That's why. Poor soul.
Oh.
But still, you don't call 911 on yourself, gas or not.
2009, so gas isn't cheap then.
No.
19-year-old Tacoma man stole a 1985 Chevy truck. This thing is a beaut, too, by the way. From the storage yard at the city transfer. This incident was witnessed by an employee of the company, and he reported it to the police. Later that day, about 12:30 p.m., another employee at the same company spotted the stolen truck on Highway 167, called 911 to report that same truck, that someone was in that truck that had been stolen. Now, this is a 1985 Chevy truck. This is not blending in 2009.
No, and you touch the gas, you lose like 7 gallons.
Yes, right.
They're tanks.
Right. A few minutes later, police receive a call from the Tacoma man who reported that his truck had ran out of gas and is now stranded on Highway 167.
Really sucks for
where
you.
Where someone had just called in and said, we saw someone in that stolen truck. So they reached the spot. The Tacoma man was wearing a City Transfer green reflective jacket and tried to claim that he was working for the company.
That already called in and reported it stolen.
Yep. But the City Transfer employee who initially saw the man take the truck came to the scene and identified the driver as the same man that he saw earlier in the day at the storage yard. Did he not think that
they wouldn't run the plates?
Oh, honey, he's 19. He doesn't know how policing works.
You can call for help in your home and they will figure it out, but you're still handing over your ID at some point.
Right, exactly. They're going to verify
at some point, they're going to make sure you're who you are, even if it's after the fact. Just like they pull up, they're going to run your goddamn plates. That's just how it works. You better have insurance too.
Yep.
Dumbass.
And so I think I'm going to save the rest of these for the end of part 2.
Sounds good.
Yeah, because there's
I
some
think
good
I'll
ones
stick
here.
around for part 2.
Okay.
I got to see how this nasty herb
goes down.
Yeah, I'm not calling him Herb. He's Herb.
He's Herb. He's a nasty herb.
He transferred from the I really like the little innocent boy to fuck you, Herb.
To you're a disgusting human being.
Human and a shitty husband who never satisfies his wife.
Right.
Like, my heart goes out to her.
Let's let that just be known.
And I hope she found somebody
poor
that
Julie,
was
never had an orgasm. Me too.
And literally wanted sex 5 times
all the
a
time.
day.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
And loved when she pranced around naked.
Yes,
for him.
and made her feel good about being naked. Mm-hmm.
That's my hopes for Julie.
On that note, we hope you guys keep it curious and come back for part 2. And follow me on social medias. I'm Crime Curious Podcast on Facebook, crime.curious Instagram, and @CuriousCrime on Twitter. You can send case suggestions to crimecurious@yahoo.com. And if you would like to binge tons of extra content on Patreon and continue to get extra content each month, feel free to join. Go to patreon.com/crimecurious, or you can click the link that's in the show notes. Until next time, everybody. Bye-bye.